Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Monday, March 11th, 2019, 4:52 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we're going to have a little bit of a special show today, and it's going to be a tribute to Mother Earth, being as this is the 8th anniversary of the Fukushima Diachi nuclear plant disaster that happened on March 11th, 2011. And there was an awful earthquake there and caused a tsunami, and then the power plant melted down and all that stuff, and the nuclear radiation keeps dumping into the water, and it's just one more way that, you know, the planet is dying. But I wrote a poem called Prayer for Mother Earth, and I wrote this a couple of years ago, and I did a blog talk radio show where I talked about Fukushima and my thoughts and feelings, and then read the prayer. So I'm going to post that as well. I actually did a blog post, and it's on my website, but we're going to go over that last. So hang around for that. Don't go anywhere. We have some other stuff to cover first, and we've got new methane data. We're going to go over methane. We're going to go over sulfur dioxide. We've got a news item about a cyclone that's down off the coast of Africa that's causing a lot of problems already. And then we're going to do earthquakes, and then we'll do prayer for Mother Earth. So what we have, the last day's worth of data that we saw was for Saturday, March the 2nd, and that was a couple of days ago, and I put that in the show then. And today on CAMS they have new data for Sunday, March the 3rd. So they only have 1 day's worth of data because it's over a week old, and they normally can only stack up 5 days worth of data. So it's kind of, I don't know why they're lagging on posting the data. It's just unnerving to me because it's so far away. You know, how can you relate it to anything, you know, unless you're tracking and recording other data at the same time? It's hard to see, you know, what it's relevant to. But anyway, we'll go ahead and look at it. And this is the Arctic view for surface level. And so this is where it left off on Sunday, where we saw a large release coming up from Siberia and coming up out of the Kara Sea, and then this was in the red and the dark brown zone, and then we were seeing this orangey release coming out of the Laptev Sea over here and coming all the way across. So that's where we left off on Saturday. So I have the movie loaded up. So let's see what happens with methane. Now it's into the forecast period for last week. So it looks like it's dissipating as it comes across, and yet it's still red coming up in the Arctic here. Then there's a new red area coming up in this Chukchi Sea. This is in the forecast period, so that shows a release coming up separate over there. And so if we watch it in the forecast period, see what happens. It releases, and then it kind of swirls around, and then more methane, it looks like, starts coming up here. And then look here at the upper coast of Greenland. Hang on. at the end of the forecast period, it's red up here at this northern coast of Greenland, so I'll be ready to pause it when it gets to that point. Look how it moves all the way across the Arctic and covers Svalbard, and so here it is at the end of the forecast period on Thursday the 7th, and it's red coming up off this northern coast of Greenland, and it's already gone over Svalbard, and then there's a large release coming up out of this Lattev Sea here, and a reddish orange release coming up off the coast of Siberia in the Chukchi Sea, and this is that East Siberia ice shelf, and of course more release here over by the Kara Sea. So that's in the forecast period. It may not really play out like that, but their forecasts are pretty accurate. So there's that. And I also have the global view pulled up so that we can see what methane was doing around the world for the same surface level. So you can see the continuing release in the Arctic and moving all across that red, and we can see China and India. It's actually, well, it's pretty bad at the beginning, but as it gets further in the forecast period, it looks like it's a little less over here and a little less over in the United States. It could be temperatures were going to be cooler because the forecast, I don't know. I mean, that's just in their forecast period. So we've got a high release up here in Canada. This is that area where we saw those two earthquakes up by Red Deer. We're seeing a high release in the northern part of the U.S., also on the west coast, and on the eastern side of the U.S. Also, we're seeing high release in Madagascar, pretty high, and we've got more earthquakes down there, and that cyclone is right down here. It's between Madagascar and Mozambique, which is a country on the east side of Africa, right down there. It's already killed a bunch of people, and it's very deadly. It's a Category 3 cyclone, and they're anticipating it to reach Category 4 stage. And so here's sulfur dioxide from today. Now remember yesterday we saw a release. Well, I'll just load up yesterday. We saw a large release up here in Russia, and we figured out it was from the Shiveluch volcano that was erupting. We also saw a couple of days ago release down here southeast of Madagascar, and we saw earthquakes down there, and so it's still going off from yesterday. And so here it is today. It's still releasing from Shiveluch. It's still erupting, and we've got a new sulfur dioxide release down here, and there are more earthquakes, and we showed that. I showed that in my show last night about all the earthquakes down here on this South Indian Ridge. And you're going to see that we had another earthquake there, and we had one right down here south of Australia, and one right down here. So we've got a lot of activity going on in the southern hemisphere. as far as earthquakes are concerned. So let's use this as our backdrop now. And next we're going to go to our article, and this is courtesy of Nostradamus, aka Dave Alcock, our friend from the UK. He sent me this article from AccuWeather.com, and I have it on Clean Reader View, so we won't see all the ads and stuff. Powerful cyclone Idai, I don't know how to say that, I'm calling it Idai, may threaten more lives, property in central Mozambique later this week. After recent rapid strengthening, heavy rain from Idai was responsible for several deaths in central Mozambique. The powerful cyclone is now on a path that will put more lives and property in peril across the region later this week. Less than 36 hours after becoming a tropical storm over the warm waters of the Mozambique Channel, Idai strengthened into an intense tropical cyclone on Monday. By the end of the day, the cyclone's intensity was equal to that of a Category 3 hurricane in the Atlantic or Eastern Pacific Oceans. So here's their satellite image of Cyclone Idai, and taken on Monday, March 11th by NOAA. And we can see it. Let's pull up Climate Reanalyzer. We can see the eye of it pretty good. If we look at precipitation, it's right down here, this yellow part. That's where they're predicting the highest rain. And it's covering, it's already hit Madagascar, and this storm, it looks like it's going all the way across Africa and then curving around and like coming back or something. I don't know what it's doing. And they have low barometric pressure. See, their sea level pressure is pretty low. It's down into the purple range. So that's below 1,000. So when it gets below 1,000 HPA, the lower it gets, the more destructive it can be. And here's sea surface temperature anomaly. So it's in the brown zone in this channel. It's browner on the other side of Madagascar. But anyway, if you want to see the jet stream, well, here's the wavy from the Antarctic. So we're not really seeing the jet stream coming around there. But anyway, we'll leave that up in case we want to come back to that. Further strengthening is expected, and Idai may approach or reach very intense tropical cyclone status around midweek. At its peak intensity, Idai's strength may be equal to a super typhoon or a strong Category 4 or even a Category 5 hurricane. Idai is anticipated to strengthen as it tracks away from Madagascar. Rain and gusty winds are expected to further lash the country's west-central coast into Tuesday, with more localized downpours targeting other parts of northern Madagascar. Seas will further become too dangerous for vessels and small craft across the southern Mozambique Channel as this week progresses and Idai takes aim at central Mozambique. Idai is now expected to strike central Mozambique on Friday, said AccuWeather senior meteorologist Jason Nichols. And so here's their tracking. Here's where it is at the time of this report, and so by Wednesday afternoon they're expecting it to be like in the middle of the channel at a category 4, and then here it is by Thursday afternoon, category 4. Here it is, and it's starting to make landfall. Like the edge of it, it looks like to me is going to be making landfall before that, but the eye of it is what they look at. And category 3, by the time it hits land on Saturday afternoon, Friday afternoon, this is a little confusing, and then category 1 as it moves on inland. Nichols anticipates that Idai may weaken some prior to landfall, but residents definitely should not let their guards down. Idai may still be an intense tropical cyclone at landfall. Rain and wind may start to increase along the coast of central Mozambique late Wednesday night or Thursday, before the worst of the storm rages around Friday. Idai can slam onshore with destructive winds and flooding rain in the vicinity of Beira. Life-threatening storm surge flooding can put coastal communities underwater near and south of where Idai makes landfall. So we need to keep these people in our prayers, because this looks very destructive, and it's already killed some people apparently. So I was trying to look at it on NASA Worldview. This is back from the 8th, 3 days ago, and where it was kind of forming in this channel. And here it is on the 9th, and we can't really see it good because they've got this stupid dividing thing. That's what they do on NASA Worldview, because the Earth is round, and they're trying to flatten it out, and so there's spaces where there's no data, but it's, it always shows up at the most critical point, so we can't really see it real good on Monday, on the 9th. Here it was yesterday on the 10th. This is a really good view. You can see the eye of it is very well formed, and here's the tail, and it's already causing lots of rain and damage on Madagascar and flooding. And here it is heading towards Mozambique over here, and it doesn't look that far from the coast to me. And here it is today, and of course we've got that big black slice in there, and it looks like it's really gotten bigger and is picking up steam. And this morning or earlier today I was looking at it for today, and it didn't have that line there, so now it does. So that's all we can do. And it looks like it's headed for up here rather than down there. So I don't know. So we'll be tracking that for all of you too. So we're going to close those out, and we'll leave that. I'll leave the links below if people want to read more about that cyclone. And now let's get into our earthquake report. I have USGS pulled up for all magnitudes for the last 24 hours. And we're showing 293 worldwide. And so we can see it's been very active, and it's still being very active, and I anticipate for it to continue. And we've got 55 on the map that are 2.5 magnitude and higher. So look at how they're just dotted around down here And let's see what the oldest one is that we need to take care of. Okay, the oldest one is this 3.1 at Cape Yakataga, Alaska, that came in at 5:12 yesterday. I think I got that. We might have a couple of overlaps because I didn't start my show until after 5:30 yesterday. So I think we're good on these. And then there was a 2.5 at Cape Yakataga, Alaska, and a 2.5 the same place. And those were, that one was at 5:26 yesterday. And then this next one is not till 6:14. So we've got plenty of time. So I'm going to start over here, since we were just looking at this area of Madagascar. And so the cyclone is right down here between Madagascar and Mozambique, and we can see that Mozambique follows this coastline of Africa, and it's kind of an unusual shape. I don't know how to describe that. So the cyclone is coming in here through here, and in the meantime, remember we had like 3 or 4 earthquakes here. Let me get we've got a whole bunch on the map here. Anyway, we've had we had 3 or 4 right down there yesterday, and we had another one, a 5.1 on the southwest Indian Ridge last night at 8:15 p.m. right on the red line. And then following this red line around, there was a 5.0 on the western Indian Antarctic Ridge at 11:43 last night. That's directly south of Australia, and so Antarctica is just down here. So this is the Antarctic plate down here. So where these plates come together is where you're going to be seeing this activity. And we've had so many large, deep earthquakes around the world. We're going to see lots and lots of movement. Lots of movement. So let's follow on around to the South Pacific. And we're seeing 2 more down here. There was a 4.6 up here near Nadoy Island, Fiji. Yes, last night at 9:21 p.m. Very deep, 485 kilometers deep. And there was a 4.9 in the Kermadec Islands near L'Esperance Rock, New Zealand at 1:56 this afternoon. Then coming on up to Papua New Guinea, they've got 2 right here, 5.8 near Kandrian, Papua New Guinea, that happened at 9:25 this morning, 31 kilometers deep, and a 4.9 at the same place at 12:01 this afternoon, 64 kilometers deep. So I don't think this caused a tsunami warning. We can always check and see. It doesn't look like it. Wow, it looks like they had a 5.0 up at Cape Yakataga, Alaska, just recently. Let's look at that tsunami warning, because I don't see the other tsunami warnings are from yesterday. No tsunami danger from this earthquake. Okay. So, you know, considering how many earthquakes are happening, and large earthquakes, it's a wonder that damage is not happening. I'm just amazed. Seriously, I'm amazed. Next, we had a 4.4 near Tual, Indonesia at 8:17 last night, 96 kilometers deep. Then a 4.9 near Samlaki, Indonesia at 6:03 this morning, 62 kilometers deep. Then some large ones right off the coast of Sumatra, a 5.2 near Onenganjan, Indonesia at 6:26 this morning, 40 kilometers deep. And then a 5.4 near Padang Sidimpuan, Indonesia at 9:34 this morning, 73 kilometers deep. Let's come on up here. A 4.5 near Port Blair, India at 6:14 last night, 111 kilometers deep. Let's get this one that's on land. Here's one in Afghanistan, a 4.5 near Farkar, Afghanistan, that happened at 11:16 this morning, 137 kilometers deep. Now, looking at the Philippines, was a 4.6 New Sulangan, Philippines at 11:36 this morning. Coming on up this red line was a 5.1 near Marizo Village, Guam at 2:28 this morning. Next was a 5.4 near Iwo Jima, Japan at 2:30 this morning. And coming on up to Japan, here was one on land, a 4.9 near Kihochucho, Japan at 11:37 last night, 41 kilometers deep. And we saw several off the coast of Japan here, and here's Fukushima, by the way. We saw several here yesterday, and then we have another one in the same region of 4.6 near Owaki, Japan at 1:20 this morning, 35 kilometers deep. So that's everything on this west side of the Pacific. Then there was a 4.8 on the southern East Pacific rise at 11:05 this morning. So we can see that's on another red line. And then looking at South America is a 4.6 near Macali, Chile at 3:14 this afternoon, 105 kilometers deep. A 4.1 near Paine, Chile at 7:22 this morning, 82 kilometers deep. And a 4.7 near Calama, Chile at 8:33 last night, 122 kilometers deep. I remember we had several, we had 3 or 4 here yesterday on the Reykjanes Ridge, southeast of this southern tip of Greenland. And we had another one of 4.9 at 4 o'clock this morning, right on the red line. Now, Let's go to all magnitudes and look at Hawaii next. We're showing 8 here today. I'll call them off. 2.1, 2.0, 1.9. This is at a minus 0.1 kilometers depth, so it was up in the volcano or the mountain. 2.2, 2.3, 1.9, 2.3, and 1.8. So we've still got some. We've got 4 here at Kilauea. One of those was the minus. This was this one was at the minus 0.3 kilometers depth. So that's still active. All of those are still active. Now let's zoom on over to the Dominican Republic. We've got 13 here today. I'll call them off. 2.7, 3.2, 2.8, 2.9, 2.3, 1.5, 2.8, 1.8, 1.3, 2.6, 2.6, 2.6, and 1.9. So we had 4 that were on land, and they were small enough not to do any damage. Now coming up to the Alaska area, we've got a cluster. Hold on. So we have a cluster here of 3. The first one was a 5.2 near Tanaga volcano at 11:23 last night, 47 kilometers deep. Then a 4.0 near Amatignak Island at 8:19 this morning. Then a 4.3 at the same place at 8:48 this morning. This one was 48 kilometers deep. Coming on around. I want to get all of Alaska's on the map. We've got 88 here today, so that's a rise since yesterday. Here's 3.4 near Chirikov Island at 9:45 this morning. And then let's go to this swarm here. I'm really concerned about this. We've got 34 here, all at this Yakataga, Alaska region. Most of them are in the 2s range. We've got some 3s. Here's a 3.3. Here's a 3.4. 2.4. Then those are 2s. Here's a 2.5. I thought I just saw a 5.0. Up here. I don't know where I saw that. I don't know if that, I don't know. Anyway, and then here's a 2.6 near Chitina. And this is 2.5 magnitude and higher. We've got a 2.9 near Anchor Point, 2.7 near Coho, 2.8 near Big Lake, 2.7 near Valdez, 2.5 near Kobuk at 0 kilometers depth, 2.5 near Koktovik. Now let's look at all magnitudes. So it appears that the majority of them are down here, clustered near Yakataga. And then we've got these, we've got a cluster of 3 up here in Koktovik at 2.5, 1.6, and 2.0. Then we've got like a 3 here, 2.2, 2.5, and 2.1. These are near Kobuk. And they're just coming down, just peppered around. Uh-oh. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So here's a 2.0 at Cantwell. So these larger dots, these are in the 2s. So we've got quite a few. They're almost all in the 2s, it looks like. We've got a few ones, but the majority are, well, it might be half and half, but it looks like a lot of in the 2s. So there's that. What's this one? 2.6, we saw that one. Now let's come on down to the lower 48. We've got some unusual stuff going on here. First, we've got a 2.3 near Gate City, Virginia. This one happened last night at 7:27 p.m. 1.2 kilometers depth. This is in the Appalachian mountain chain. Just anyway. And all these times I'm telling you are Pacific time because I have it set to Pacific time so that I can read it better. Here's one just to the north of the North Panhandle of Florida. It's a 3.1 near Flomaton, Alabama at 11:36 this morning. Now remember, we had one down here in the Florida Panhandle a few days ago, which was a highly unusual place to have an earthquake. And that's a 3.1, so that's sizable. That's definitely sizable. Then in Oklahoma, there was a 1.8 near Blanchard at 9:04 last night. Then we've got 2 in Kansas. There was a 2.8 near South Hutchinson at 10:35 last night, and a 1.9 at the same place at 5:18 this morning. Coming on over, we've had 2 in Colorado. This one is right on the border between Colorado and New Mexico. They're calling it near Trinidad because that's the reporting station. 3.2 near Trinidad, Colorado at 4:44 this morning. And then here were two more at Dove Creek. Looks like they're stacked up where we've been seeing them for the last week or so. A 2.0 at 1:47 this morning, 1.1 kilometers depth, and a 2.3 at 4:14 this morning and 1.8 kilometers depth. So that's still moving. Then coming on over to Utah, we've got a cluster here of 6 at Farron. Remember, Farron has been very active, and we've got some at negative depth here. We've got a 1.1 at 8:32 last night at a minus 0.1 kilometers depth. That means that the epicenter of the earthquake was up in the mountain, so it's showing, I'm thinking it's magma moving. It could be an old volcano and it's magma moving up in there. So that was at 8:32 last night. Then at 8:44, just 12 minutes later, was a 1.2 at the same place at a minus 0.1 kilometers depth, same depth. And then at 9:17 was a 1.0, 1.6 kilometers depth. Then a 1.4 at 10:54 p.m. last night, 0.7 kilometers depth. Then a 2.0 at 3:43 this morning, 2.6 kilometers depth, and a 1.1 at 1:04 this afternoon, 0.7 kilometers depth. Then here is one to the northeast of Salt Lake, the Great Salt Lake. Was a 1.0 near Honeyville, Utah at 10:48 this morning at a minus 1.6 kilometers depth. So again, up in the mountain, and it looks like there's a mountain range there. So there's so much movement. I just wonder how much is not getting reported. Then up here in the Yellowstone area, we're seeing 2 being reported. A 1.5 at Old Faithful, or near Old Faithful Geyser at 2:31 this morning, and a 1.7 at the same place at 4:32 this morning. Then in the Pacific Northwest, we're seeing 8 on the map right now. So let's just start with the first one, a 1.2 near Anacortes at 3:52. I'm sorry, 5:52 yesterday afternoon, right up there. And then a 1.2 near Renton at 5:53 yesterday afternoon, just southeast of Seattle. Then a 0.8 near Granite Falls at 9:10 last night, right over here. And then a 0.7 at Granite Falls at 9:10. So we had 2 at 9:10. The first one was at the 20-second mark, 22 seconds, and then the second one was at 58 seconds. So just about 30 seconds apart, we had 2 earthquakes in the same place, 0.8 and 0.7. Then a 1.3 near Port Ludlow at 12:11 this morning. A 0.8 near Erland's Point, Kitsap Lake at 1:18 this morning. 0.6 near Morton at 6:18 this morning. And another 1.9 near Granite Falls at 8:58 this morning at a minus 0.5 kilometers depth. So Oregon looks clear. Coming on down into Northern California. Well, we've got activity. We definitely have stuff to note here. First of all, we've got two to the east of Redding. They're calling them near Millville. 2.9 that happened at 4:39 this morning, and a 1.3 that happened at 5:25 this morning. They were right by each other. Then to the southwest of that was a 1.1 near Alder Springs at 11:49 this morning. And then was a 1.9 near East Shore last night at 11:50. Let's come on down across. Here's a 0.8 near Cold Springs. This is in the Reno area at 6:36 this morning. And a 1.1 on near Mount Rose, it looks like, in the Mount Rose area at 9:39 last night. Another one east of Fernley, a 1.4 at 2:51 this morning. Coming on down in Nevada was a 1.0 near Smith, 1.4 near Hawthorne. Here's a blast or explosion, a 1.1 magnitude explosion near Gabbs, Nevada at 4:16 this afternoon. That was deep, 5.1 kilometers deep, so they were blasting down in the earth. So look at these clusters. I mean, look at the uptick. Oh my gosh. Is it because of this explosion that was so deep? This happened this afternoon, 4:16, so we'll see what time these others happened. Here's a 0.5, 1.5. This one happened at 4:39 near Hawthorne. This one happened this morning. I'm kind of flipping out here. This is Goldfield. Let's look here next. Remember this big cluster here yesterday. There are 9 here today, and they're small, 0.7 minus 0.1, 1. Here's a 2.4. These were yesterday. Let's see. These were all yesterday. The last one at Goldfield was at 11:55 last night. Here's a 0.4 near Beatty. Now coming into southern Nevada. Here's a 1.4 near Alamo. And 0.4 near Alamo. Let's just come on into California here now. Here's a 1.8 near Columbia. This was at 2:21 this afternoon. Here's a 0.5 near Bridgeport at 5:05 this morning. Look at all of these in the Mammoth Lake and Long Valley area. 21. This one happened after the explosion that happened underground. The 1.5 near Hawthorne. I'm not seeing it on the map, but anyway, 25 here. Here's a cluster here. Look at that. This is incredible. This is incredible movement. Remember I said that it looked too quiet yesterday? Now I've got 21. I think I got some of those from Nevada off the map. So here are the ones from California, 21. So most of these are ones and under. I'll just call them off if they look notable or if there's any negative depth. 1.7, that looks like that's probably close to the highest magnitude. 1.8 near Yosemite Valley. None of those at a negative depth, but a lot of activity there. A lot of activity, and those started last night at 6:06, and they went through the night and through this morning to 11:32, and then the last one was at 3:18 this afternoon. And coming on down, we've got 0.6 near Lone Pine, 1.0 near Lone Pine. Oh, here's a 0 magnitude near Coso Junction, 0.5 near Coso Junction, 0.4 near Coso Junction. A 0 near Beatty. Let's look at this cluster. There's 3 here. One is a quarry blast. The first one was a 1.1 near Tehachapi at 2:37 this morning. Then we had a 1.0 magnitude from a quarry blast near Mojave. That happened at 12:03 this afternoon at a minus 0.8 kilometers depth. And then another 1.1 near Tehachapi at 12:46. Then let's see what's going on down here in Baja. Here was a 2.4 near Manadero, Baja at 12:07 this afternoon, and a 1.5 near Progreso at 9:57 last night. So in Southern California, we have 40 on the map here today, including these 2 down here in Baja and these 2 right here. So let's see where these 40 are. It looks like a good sized cluster at Kauai today. So we're showing 17 here today. So they're just peppered around, and Let's see if we have any that are 2.5 magnitude and higher. Not down there. We do up here, so we're going to go up there in a second here. So they're just peppered around, like I said. So most of these are in the ones range and under. So that's what we're kind of used to seeing, except it is a high number showing activity. And of course, since the earthquake makers are back at work, then, you know, the blasting causes earthquakes. That's all there is to it. I'm convinced that blasting causes earthquakes. Here's a 1.3 near Los Baños at 11:17 last night. It's in this lake, San Luis Reservoir, right on the coast of that reservoir. Real good place for an earthquake, because a reservoir means a dam. 0.6 near Gilroy. Here's a 1.1 near Alum Rock. And then, what's going on at the geysers? We've got 35 here today. That's an unusually high number. So at the geysers, the largest one was a 2.7. That was at 1:27 this morning. So these are under 1, most of them. Under 1 are 1s, and then the 2.7. Then we saw that 2.9 near Millville, near Reading. So let's zoom out and see if there's anything else significant we need to look at. I think we got everything. We got this 4.6 near Macaulay, Chile at 3:14, 105. Oh, these are pretty close. Yeah, I already reported on those. So that's a wrap for the earthquakes. So now I'm going to read you my poem that I wrote, and I posted it on my blog today. This is on my website, margoshealingcorner.com, and it's called Prayer for Mother Earth, and the subtitle today is 8 years after Fukushima. As I originally wrote and posted this prayer 2 years ago, I'm reposting it again today on the 8th anniversary of the nuclear disaster at Fukushima Diachi, Japan. The nuclear radiation will continue to pour from the plant unabated until the Earth ends. It is just one of the many things that is killing Mother Earth and all life on the planet. Prayer for Mother Earth. My heart is heavy with uncried tears, for all your pain through all the years. Time is short, yet people dawdle, distracted by meaningless chatter. The sadness, my constant companion, I now realize is my communion with you. I used to fret knowing something was wrong, yet not knowing what to do. I'm now resigned to our fate. No one said we'd make it out alive anyway. The powers that rule are cold and cruel. They never knew your soul. Even if there were time, we could not be rid of the unseen, unknown rulers. How can we fight the enemy when we're blind, deaf, and dumb? I'm sorry for your suffering. Thank you for your sacrifices you've made for us. Thank you for your service, your loving and caring heart. When it's time to go, wrap us in your arms and take us home with you. We are the walking dead, just waiting and hoping it will be short and swift. Dear Father, Mother God, Creator of this beautiful world, forgive us. We knew not what we did. We were controlled, deceived, and manipulated. Please give us the heart and compassion we need to make it through till the end. Margo. Written on March 11th, 2017, 6 years after the Fukushima disaster. And then here's the link to the Blog Talk Radio show that I did back then, and where I talked about my thoughts and my feelings, and read the poem again. So I will leave the link below. So we'll just end it there. So I didn't think we'd make it this far. I mean, after all of that, I really thought we'd be gone by now. But we're still here, and it's getting harder every day for most of us. But I think that if you have a spiritual foundation and a spiritual path, spiritual direction, and you realize that we have no control over any of it except for asking for our connection with God and Jesus and the divine, that's the only thing that's really going to give us any comfort, because we're not going to find it here in 3D. It's just not meant to be. So I love you all, and until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and goodbye.